episode of the Bad Ideas podcast with Jim Iyoob. How you doing, Jim?
I'm doing great, Nick. This is exciting. I'm so pumped up about this one. This is something I've never done in my career, so I'm looking forward to this one.
Well, so head chief customer officer at eTech. You guys are huge, so I'm sure people are bringing bad ideas into your office like every hour, every half an hour, that sort of thing. So you've seen a lot of this. But
Yes.
tell us a bit about your background. Like, how did you get here? Help grow the company so big? What makes you you?
Yeah. So I'm a 32-year veteran in the contact center space. Out of college, I believe it or not, I went to school for computer programming and system design. Ended up getting a job at a call center for Dun and Bradstreet, working for this guy, Matt Rocco. Reason I bring that name up is because I remember he brought me into his office. He was the big shot. And he said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "Well, geez, I want to be you one day." And for whatever reason, he mentored me.
Yeah.
I still work for him today. So when I came to Texas he started this company, was recruited. He recruited me, and I've been with the guy for 30 some years of my career, two companies, and I started as an agent and just worked my way up through the ranks of the business. It's been an unbelievable experience. So I've seen all sides of the business.
Yeah, that's truly amazing. It's so few companies get to your level of scale. And you're right. I saw your post on LinkedIn today about the value of customer service. It's the catalyst, right? You have that, everything else kind of comes secondary.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's timely too that we're talking. I just saw. Do you know who Patrick Bet David is?
I don't know if I know that name.
He's he does valuetainment now, but he built a pretty big insurance firm. And he made a post that was almost identical to yours on LinkedIn, just talking about how people will pay a significant premium for amazing service. And, that's your MO. So
I talk about that all the time. Have you ever been to Disney? You're paying for fast passes. Think about it. You're paying for the experience. That's what you're paying for.
Yeah. And what an experience too. The level of detail they put into those parks is just almost as mind-blowing as the price they charge for admission.
Agreed there.
Awesome. All right. So order of operations, we'll reveal our bad idea in a second. You and I will tear it apart. And then when we run out of bad stuff to say, we'll try to flip the script and make it good. You ready?
I'm ready.
The big reveal. Let's see what we got today. Our bad idea is QR code business cards for the elderly, so the tech savvy have a better way to keep in touch.
Oh my goodness, though.
I don't think my grandparents could even take a photo on their phone, let alone like scan it.
I don't think I know anybody that knows how to use the phone to make the call, let alone scan the QR code, add it to your contacts, create new contacts. It's funny because when you were talking about it, I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. That's a good idea because I actually have one of those. But then you added that piece.
The elderly. Yeah.
And I will tell you the funny part about it, when you think about it, I know people who are our age or younger that don't know how to use these. Like I pull out my card a lot of times.
Yeah.
And they have no idea. They try to take it and put it in their pocket. I'm like, no, just talk to your phone, right? It's because it's RFID. But I have to say, I have my mother-in-law who lives with me. She's 72. I have a hard enough time her answering the phone. Like, because she doesn't even know how to use the buttons to increase the volume because she'll say, I can never hear it. That's because you keep hitting the down button and it keeps turning your ringer off. So the QR code for the elderly and defining elderly, I'm not saying my mother-in-law is real old, but 72, I'm telling you, I can't get her to understand how to use her phone. So let alone the QR code. I don't even know if they actually know what a QR code is. And it's funny about it. If you watch TV or the news, that's the new thing. Scan this. And I've heard her say, what is that? What is that?
Yeah, right.
Even going down that pipe.
Yeah, the education pipeline is just too deep. I think what they were probably thinking, have you ever been to one of these really built up retirement communities? Like particularly down south in Texas and Florida?
Well, in Texas, there's some nice ones.
Yeah.
Like I have friends that are in there. We actually go visit them. They call They're not really family, but they are family. But we call her Lala. Right? She's in a beautiful retirement place.
And they're huge. I mean, they have everything. They have like their own hospitals and their own grocery stores and like multiple golf courses, movie theaters. It's like college without the class.
And they have computers now. They have little computer workstations.
Oh, yeah, and people who can assist you. I imagine that's probably the target, like people who are retired and live in a place like that, and they are meeting people and don't really have a way to kind of organize those relationships. But the approach is not to get them to adopt the new technology they don't understand, right?
No, but I would probably, whoever gave us this great idea, right? I would say there's so much better technology out there
Yeah,
that would make it effortless for the
like
elderly.
RFID, like you were just talking about.
RFID. So if you
Yeah,
think about RFID, you can literally have a badge with an RFID in it, and all you got to do is tap the other badge, and it actually connects you guys together. Which, by
yeah,
the way, is what Disney does. If you've ever seen their RFID chip, when your kid walks up to the character, they say, "Jim, I've been waiting to see you." Blows the children's mind. But all
yeah.
it did was read the person's name from their badge, their little wand, their watch thing.
Which is a great idea. I mean, it makes it automatic. Have you seen those? We just went to I'm down the street from Miami Stadium, Miami Dolphins game, and Amazon had one of those RFID terminals where you like swipe your card and somehow it tags you, and you go in and pick up whatever you want and walk out, and it charges you for the products you walk out with.
I
It just
have
kind of like
not seen
knows.
that, but I left Dallas Airport this morning at 6 a.m. and there is one of those kiosks in the airport, and I didn't know how it worked. I didn't know you swiped your card because it
Yeah,
said it's an Amazon kiosk, and it says you walk in, pick out whatever you want, and leave, and you have to. There's no human beings in there. Basically, go into this stall, pick whatever you want, and leave, and it charges you. I was wondering how it worked. I That's the first one I've ever seen, but I've heard of
yeah, they're propping up. I mean, look at that. Like you and I are both fairly technically advanced. I mean, you have an RFID business card, so that's up there. And we're struggling with this new Amazon tech. How are we going to get a senior population that doesn't even know how to use a smartphone to start scanning QR codes?
it. There's no way. I mean, I will tell you, like my mother-in-law, when she travels, and again, I'm knocking on her, but at 72, my wife's got to load her freaking boarding pass on her phone for her because she doesn't know how to do that. And then the
Yeah,
sad part is when she's coming home, she doesn't know how to do it. So now you're on the phone telling her how to do it.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
trying to
I
have
hear
a
you.
conversation with someone to tell them the steps just to bring your boarding pass down to your phone.
I think maybe that's the intent. The intent here is to use technology to make things easier for the elderly, but maybe that's where the focus really needs to be, is finding ways to use technology they don't have to learn, which is where I think the AI tech that we have now is really going to make a difference because, well, I don't think it's quite as intelligent as everyone claims it is. It's an amazing reference tool. And, people who can ask for help, which the elderly, most of them can, maybe that's the angle, not the QR code, but some kind of voice activated
Voice
support tool.
activated. So, do you know who has a good voice activated system, believe it or not? Have
Uh,
you seen Comcast's
no.
cable boxes? So you can literally talk into the remote and tell you what channel or what show, and it will
Yeah,
change the channel for you. All voice
that's
activated.
crazy.
And there's really no learning there,
Yeah.
which is cool. I think the learning curve for an elderly person, transparently, without offending half the audience, right? The biggest opportunity because when you see it, and think about all of us, like, nobody likes change, right? And when you talk about I mean, I consider myself an expert of the AI space. Remember, the AI was programmed by a human being. Let's be clear.
I know.
It didn't
I
wake up one day and automatically freaking know all the answers. It was
know.
mining and texting and all that data text. And that's what people don't understand. They think it's like, because my daughter, I have a 22-year-old. So she
Mhm.
uses ChatGPT.
Yeah.
She's in college. Um, she she also uses Claude. If you ever heard of Claude, I like Claude better than
No,
ChatGPT.
I'll check it out.
Yeah,
I'll check it out.
Claude.ai. I like it better than ChatGPT. But it's
Mhm.
funny because you can type the same question into different platforms and you will
Totally
get
different
different.
answer. Yeah. And you heard about who is Oh, the last interview I did last week, the guest was talking about the Trump lawyer, Mark Cohen, who was using ChatGPT for case law, and it started making up case
Yeah,
law,
makes up
and
stuff.
he didn't know. And
It's crazy. Well, so my daughter was taking a test on analytics, by the way, and
yeah.
she used ChatGPT, and the answer was wrong. She used the answer in the test. So two things we have figured out. I don't know what was wrong. Was it the answer or was it the test? But
Yeah.
she literally took the answer from that, answered her test, and she got it wrong. So now I have my whole entire data scientist team researching this. I don't know where the problem is. Is it ChatGPT or is it the person who created the test? Because I got to go after this.
No, it's I mean, it's wild because on the one hand, you're getting access to so much information so fast, which is truly incredible, but on the other, there's 0 feedback loop, so it has no
Nope.
idea if it's giving you good stuff or not.
Nope. And when you think about this QR code thing, you got to think about like it's funny because we just bought my mother in law a new TV for Christmas for her room, and guess what came with a remote. You know you
Mhm.
got to program the remote, right? Because you got a cable box.
Yeah.
I kid you not, I tried to do it myself, and I followed the directions and failed. My wife tried to do it; it didn't work. We ended up calling the cable company and say they tried twice over the phone to do it. And then the kid was so funny because he's like, you know what? Let me send someone to the house. I'm like, really? You're going to send someone to the program? I'm like, this is huge. Like, that's
Yeah.
service, by the way. I
That
kid you not.
service.
Next day at 11 o'clock, guy came in. He tried to program it, right? He couldn't do it. He took another remote and then did it. So think
Uh,
about all the steps that went through, and the remote was not capable to actually follow the instructions that were printed on the back how to do it. And then he brought in a brand new remote, and that remote worked.
yeah.
And speaking of which, by the way, he saw my mother in law and saw how old she was, and he gave her a remote with bigger numbers. So the QR code, I'm telling you, it's not a good one.
No, it's just it's a poor access point. It's a poor access. But I think we're on to something with this whole voice activated movement. I think um I mean there's no I have a personal gripe with the old dog new tricks thing. I think you can learn at any point in your life, and it's been proven too. Like the brain can form new synapses and doesn't change. I think what happens is over the course of your life, you accumulate so many habits and skills that it's easy to be automatic and you don't want to learn. It's not that you can't, it's just frustrating to have to go back into that state of uncertainty and discomfort. So the learning capacity is there, but the stuff that we use every day is not as intuitive as we like to give it credit for being.
Mm,
But that's maybe where, natural language processing and AI can really make a difference. So when you look at this business, yeah, we're killing the QR code. That's devastatingly bad. It's going to make the whole thing fail. But you throw in voice activation here and you set up some kind of device that someone can come home and say, "Hey, who did I meet tonight? Or who did I meet yesterday? Or who did I have a really good time with?" Right? That'd be cool for everyone, not just the elderly.
yeah.
Um, keep track of things like what's my schedule today? Who am I meeting?
But then
That,
the problem with that is then you're tracking everybody, right? So think about that, right? So
yeah.
then you're going to have all the conspiracy theories out there talking about Bill Gates and Microsoft with his little chips and saying, man, you're tracking every movement, you're tracking this. I mean, you're not talking, NSA type stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that chip stuff is wild. Have you ever seen the report? It's wild.
Crazy.
And then the Amazon Alexa. Have you ever opened up the clips that they let you play? Like if you log in deep enough to your Amazon account, you can actually play recordings of your conversations.
I never
Like,
played my own recordings of it, but it's funny. I have Alexa, and the only thing I actually have a program to do is my wife puts up like around 11 Christmas trees at Christmas. So I
yeah,
have all the remotes and I say, Alexa, turn on lights. So it turns on all the lights throughout the whole house at once and then turns them off. And it's funny you
yeah,
say that because this is a new feature they just came up. When we did it, we said, Alexa, turn on lights. And Alexa actually came back and says, hey, I can set this automatically for you to turn them on at dusk and turn them off at dawn. Would you like to do that? I'm like,
yeah,
that's cool. And let's be clear, she was programmed by a human being. So
yeah,
somebody else thought about it. Somebody
yeah.
coded it. And I was like, that's a
Yeah.
genius idea. So now I don't have to turn them
Yeah.
on and off every day.
Yeah, it's a practical idea.
Yeah.
I think the data stuff is definitely overblown on some level, but I think that'd be huge for someone older, younger, like some kind of machine that kept track of who you met. You're combining NFC instead of the QR code and making it so easy to access. You just talk to something. I think people would trade a little bit of privacy to get that lift in functionality. I don't know. I mean,
Well, I think
you must have an assistant or two at work that tells
I
you what
do.
your agenda looks like, right? Like it's a
Yeah, yeah.
critical thing.
It is. And what I think would have to add value to it, though, like you'd have to have the picture too, because, like, remember, you don't remember names, right?
Yeah,
So think about like the person, like, you're going to remember their face. You have
yeah,
those characteristics that you try to remember, and I think you'd have to have it'd be almost like a LinkedIn, except better, right? You'd have the picture, where you met, almost like a. So if you think about old school, I remember a guy
yeah,
in the business world. Remember when the Palm Pilot came out years and years ago?
yeah, yeah,
He had, like, if you brought a name of somebody, hey, do you know so and so? He would pull it up on his little pilot and say, yeah, matter of fact, his birthday is this. Here's his wife's. He had a database on just about every client he ever talked to, which was crazy. And I remember I copied some of those ideas myself when I was younger, where when I add you to my contacts in Outlook, if I can uncover anything, I'm dropping it into just the notes section. So I have a little bit of data. Like, I know some of my people who like the Dallas Cowboys. I know somebody who doesn't like Dallas. So you try to use that. But imagine if that was automated. There's the idea. How do I get
yeah.
all that into one master database and then use it? And to your point, like in the elderly, like who likes shuffleboard, who likes cribbage, who likes this. I mean, just imagine that. You could literally make your own circle of friends, right? Of people who like what you like. I mean, no
Uh-huh.
different than the dating app. Think about what the dating app's doing. Swipe left, swipe right based on characteristics. We need to get
Yeah.
all these companies together and help us build this.
Yeah, I think we're coming up with something good here. Because I mean, it's all right there. I think that just nobody's really thinking about this population, and we're such a senior society. Like it's a huge target market. I
That's
love it.
because
When
the Gen Zs are taking all the publicity out in the world and getting all the accolades for their 2 hour days that they're working. And
yeah,
there's
yeah, yeah,
there's no time to work on the people who work 8, 10, 12, 15 hours a day to supply all these Gen Zs. Remember, I got kids. I'm
yeah.
100% behind that one.
Crazy, crazy. Yeah, but I mean, there's definitely some value there. That's an experience. You come home and who did I meet today? And you get like some kind of lookbook of everyone you connected with, what their name is, what you guys talked about. It's creepy, but it's valuable. It's like Facebook. It's creepy, but
Yeah,
it's valuable.
absolutely.
It's a good thing.
And you're
And we'd
right.
have to just,
Look at the privacy they give up on Facebook just to be on Facebook. I mean,
I know.
I'm getting to the point now where if I think of what I'm looking at, it's showing up in my Facebook feed.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's some metaphysics we got to get into there because the algorithms aren't that smart yet. But I want to, just because we have you, because you've built such a huge customer organization, the customer experience is the pivotal part of the business, right? You'd agree?
Agreed.
That's what makes things grow. Do you have any like general pillars you use? Like when you guys launch a new product or service, is there any kind of like framework you need to fit in the service organization and make sure it's rolled out well?
So I put myself as a great question. So, I mean, I don't know if I have pillars, but I have ideas. So the first thing I do when I talk to a client is, well, they tell you everything they need to do, which I have to listen because you have to listen to what their needs are. But I take a different look at it, which my Dean of Leadership Development tells me I always wear different glasses, right? Because I look at it from their customer's perspective versus what marketing and everybody else is thinking they have to do.
Yeah.
So I have this term that I use, which is not new or I own, but I talk about effortless customer experience, which a lot of people talk about. Matt Dixon wrote a book on it. I've read the book. I've seen what other people talk about. Mine's a little different. So when I talk about experience, I say, how hard is it for me to do business with you? That's my definition of effortless. Number two, when people start talking to me about channels, like call center, right? Phone, chat. Now, I think we want to move, a lot of it to online chat because, the phone's a little expensive. I said, wait a minute. I'm sorry. It's not your decision to tell me how to contact you. It's mine. So while I agree you should have phone, chat, you can't shut one off because you want to save money. In a global marketplace, I could buy your product from anybody. So it's my decision as a consumer. And I think that's what a lot of people miss when they're thinking about customer experience, because they're thinking about themselves and I'm thinking about the end consumer or business, whoever's buying from it. That's how I think of every strategy I've ever deployed.
Yeah. So if someone came to you and said, "Hey, I want to rip out phone and put in QR codes," you'd be like, "Nope,
Not your
killing that one
decision.
on the spot."
Well, I'd say,
Not gonna
well,
happen.
it depends. What are you trying to do? Are you trying to short the stock? Are you trying to go bankrupt? I mean, what are you trying to accomplish? Trying to piss off all your customers? I mean, because if that's what you're trying to do, yeah, let's go for it. But if your goal is to grow and develop customer experiences, that's not the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, I think the frictionless point is amazing. I'm from the marketing services space, and you know this. The marketers always want to like engineer a situation where someone can buy, which as much as a plan can be amazing and the hooks can be amazing, you can't force somebody to do anything. You
Nope.
know, I mean, you can barely do it when they work for you. You can't do it like through electronic communications. The only thing you can do is what you just pointed out is make it really, really easy for them to do what you want them to do. And that maximizes the percentage that actually do that thing. So, I think what you're bringing up, and it's amazing to get to talk to someone at the top of such a big company who lives by this philosophy, that's forefront for you. Because I mean, that's absolutely the hole in this one. This doesn't make it easy, and it doesn't think from the customer's perspective
Mm-mm.
at all.
No, because most marketing people don't take this personal since you're part of the marketing. You're focused
Oh,
on
not at all.
your
Yeah,
goal, where you should be focused on the customer goal. If you focus all your energy and effort to the customer's goals, you could actually come up with a good plan.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
no
yeah,
different than, I get tons of flyers, right? So mail. I can't believe people still do mail drops, right?
yeah.
But for whatever reason, it has to be working, because otherwise, why would they spend this kind of money in mail? But it's comical when you see some of them, because what you'll get is an offer, right? Offer
Hmm.
number one, we'll call it $25 for sake of argument. And if you don't do anything with that, usually within 3 weeks, you're getting another one that's actually a better offer, right?
Yeah, yeah.
75. And it's no different that they're doing online now. If you notice, if you go to a lot of these retail sites, you put the stuff in your shopping cart, and I've already got them down pat. Like, I know if I want to order flowers, right, from certain flower companies online, I go in, I put everything in my cart, and then I back out. Within 2 minutes, I'm getting an email. Hey, you left something in your cart. Here's a 20% coupon to get off.
Wham.
Bam! Got my 20.
I mean, it's over engineered, and you're right, it's losing sight. I think because the attraction, I mean, you hit it on the head. We're trying to make our goals easy. So we're seeking a frictionless experience to our own goals
Correct.
instead of trying to find a way to make it frictionless for the customer.
It's no
And
different
that's
than the
where all the
sales
scale is.
guy. I mean, the sales guys are the same way. What do they focus on? The sale, right? If you
Yeah.
focus on education and focus on what the customer's needs are, the sale will come. But
Yeah.
because they're focused on their own needs and their own, so my like I told you, I've been with my boss for 30 some years, and he has a servant led philosophy at ETAC, and everything he does and lives and breathes personally. So when you think about serving others first, and you become mastered or very good at that, everything else comes easy, because it's not about me. And I had a tough time growing. I was a young punk kid, right? I was egotistical. I was a top this, top that. And it was tough. But once I learned this, when you focus on other people and focus on their needs versus my own, it's incredible. I have people in my organization that, believe it or not, were agents like 7, 8 years ago, who are directors now, because I led them. I mean, some of them actually are better than me. I mean, which is great, right? That's like that, some
That's
of the
what you
people
want.
who were under me, right, are peers of mine now, right? Or moved into other parts of our organization. That's like a compliment, right? Not a lot of
Mhm.
people look at it like that. And I
Yeah.
learned that, over the years being with the same boss. But man, serve others first. Everything else will come back.
It's wild. It's wild. Well, I mean, we're going to bake that into all of our other bad idea evaluations if you'll permit us to. No, because I think it's true. I think a lot of why we're doing this show, I think people get so fixated on the idea, they forget about the customer that they're serving, And as long as there's value and you can line that up the right way, and like you said, make it about the customer, there's a win in all of this stuff.
So I have my son has an idea, which is still in my. I have to get a patent on this thing. He has an idea, And his idea, which he sent me the prototype of it, it's amazing an idea. It's really an amazing idea. And I have to get a patent on it first, but it was all around the user experience. That's all I'll say. Had
Yeah.
nothing to do with money, had nothing to do with anything other than this was something he did
Mhm.
and he didn't like the experience and created a product that would enhance the experience to help him have a better experience, which is crazy.
Yeah. That's amazing though. I mean, that's how you make a difference. He's like Steve Jobs 2.0, right? That's
Yeah.
how Apple started. Yeah, we did. We're actually just winding down a company we started 6 or 7 years ago. But exact point you just made again, like we thought we were solving this problem in such a creative way, but nobody understood how it worked because we never spent any time thinking about how an end user who wasn't us would come into it and understand it. It was a confusing user experience. We had thousands of people download because the promise was amazing. Zero usage because nobody understood it because we didn't spend enough time thinking about how to make it accessible, how to make it frictionless, to use your term.
Are you
Just
sure you're not in IT? Because that sounds like what the IT guys do. They solve problems that aren't problems.
no, I'm a marketer. I'm a marketer, but I can take credit for IT problems too. I mean, that's why we're on the Bad Ideas podcast. I think if there's a bad idea, I've stumbled upon it one way or another.
Well, by the way, there's a lot of good ideas that need to be shut down too.
Yeah, yeah,
Get tons of ideas from the call center agents that are good ideas, but you can't implement them.
yeah.
You know, you should just give us as much PTO as we want and not worry about it. We should be able to make our own hours. You're in an outsourced contact center. You need to answer the call between this time and this time. Yeah, that doesn't really work for me. I remember when I lived in India for a couple of years, setting up our global operations. This is a true story. Want to talk about good ideas that are bad ideas?
Yeah.
The parents are coming to me and saying, listen, we really got to change it because, obviously when you're dealing with the US customer, right? They're in America, different time zones, 11 and a half hours difference. He's like, my kids could do a great job, but they can only work day shift in India. You need to tell your customers they need to adjust. But my customers are in the United States. So nobody's calling in the middle of the night. They're calling in daytime hours. It's like, you got to figure that out. And I said, what would you like me to do? Move the sun? It's like, that's the only option I have. But it's
Yeah.
amazing what some people will think about.
hmm Yeah, not understanding the other side of it. I mean, it's hard to think from multiple perspectives. I think that's clearly a skill that you spend a lot of time investing in. Certainly paid off. But being able to move from one to the other instead of getting this kind of myopic focus in your own, and that's hopefully, at least for me, one of the themes of the show. Like we always start with a bad idea,
Yeah.
and we find some gold in it. And I want people to see that, especially with folks like you coming on who listen to this stuff all day for decades. You go right to the thing that's not going to work, and then you share the perspective that needs to be shared to make it work. That's what I want people
Remember,
to take
like
away
you
from this.
have to fail though. That's the other thing. Like when you think about, you have to have bad ideas because it. So like I have people in my organization who are, we'll just call them semi-perfectionists. They will do an analysis paralysis and not make changes, not make moves, not do anything because they want it to be perfect. There's no such thing as perfection. And by the
hmm
way, if you make zero mistakes through your journey, you're never going to be successful because you haven't learned anything.
Yeah.
I have a saying that I make probably 100 decisions a week. If I'm right
Wow.
80% of the time, golden. That's a huge
Yeah.
week for me. And
Yeah.
you
That's
learn from
amazing.
those things. And that's what people are afraid. A lot of people are afraid to give ideas because they want perfection or they want to know that it's a good idea before they give the idea. Which by the way is
hmm
a bad thing to do because really you should take all the ideas. So what we just talked about, here's why it won't work, but here's a couple of things you should think about that may make it work, which would
Yeah.
actually make sense. And now you've just learned something.
This is amazing. This is perfect. Thank you so much for being so transparent about your story and what goes on inside your organization. I think it's a very unique periscope into kind of life at that size and scale.
Thank you.
I gotta ask, so people are definitely gonna look you up. I bet you're gonna get a lot of job applications after this airs. But how do people find you if they wanna get in touch with you or your team? Where's the
Easy
best place
one.
for
So
them to
there's
go?
not a lot of Jim Iyoob out there. So it's Iyoob as in boy. You can find me on LinkedIn. That's my professional account. Feel free to connect with me. I have a newsletter that I put out once a month. I put out a lot of good stuff, as you see. Now, if you want to see the funny side of Jim Iyoob, the sarcastic stuff, I do that on Facebook and Instagram. I try to put out sarcastic stuff at least once a week just to have fun because I believe and I take myself and I take what I do very seriously, like my job, but I don't take myself seriously. So I like to have fun. So as an example, my post yesterday was my boss said that a cluttered desk is a sign of a cluttered mind. Now he wasn't really happy when I pointed out that his desk was empty. So if you want, and you can find me under Jim Iyoob. It's my first name, last name, and any of those channels. But yeah, I encourage people. And by the way, I do get lots of job applications every time I do podcasts and all this stuff. eTech is we are a global company. All of our people are in centers, in sites. If you live in our geographic footprint, by all means, we encourage you to apply. But we do not hire remote people. Not that we don't believe that the remote doesn't work, because we did it during COVID, but because of our unique culture, we like our people to be close to our centers so that we can actually bring you in, do those things that I don't believe in my heart happen when you're in remote work.
Totally makes sense. I mean, you guys are everywhere. We'll put a link up to the careers page
Sure,
at the end of the episode if that works. And
absolutely.
just amazing. I'm sure it'd be a dream to work for you. Your perspective,
Or
the way
nightmare, either one. You
that
can go
you've
either way.
learned. No, no, no. No, you don't get to that level of scale if it's a nightmare. It stays
Thank
small.
you.
So thank you so much for hopping on. I really appreciate this.
I appreciate this, Nick. This was awesome. And you'll have to do one of our podcasts now. I'm gonna
Anytime.
I'm gonna hold you to that one. I'm gonna have you speaking to Melissa Wood, who's our Dean of Leadership Development. She does a
Oh
coffee
man.
talk podcast. So you can bring your
Yeah.
coffee and you can just have a conversation. It'll be
All
similar.
right. I'll bring some bad ideas
There
that
you
we'll
go.
combine
That'll
the
be
two.
fun. It would be great. Bring some bad ideas.
The two. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. We'll get a link out to you and to the careers page. And this is fantastic. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate the opportunity, my brother. Have a great week. Stay safe. God bless. Appreciate it.